So, for population, you're probably going to want to keep the zombie count on 0. This is just the population multiplier. Keep it on normal, and keep zombie distribution on urban focused. Next we go on to time, and as you may know, this game has a time system, so days will pass, weeks will pass, months will pass, years will pass, and obviously you've got 12 months in a year, etc, etc. You can change which month you start in. I recommend just keeping it on July. Very, something you may want to change yourself, but I keep to 1 hour is the length of the days. I feel like a 1 hour day, half an hour day, half an hour night, it's much more realistic it feels more realistic in the game. On to world. Water shut off and electricity shut off. In this game, the water and power will shut off after a certain amount of days. If the water shuts off, it means you can't get fresh water from taps and other water containers like that. And if the electricity shuts off, it means you can't power lights, you can't power mainly fridges, and fridges is what you store your perishable foods in. And if obviously if your fridge can't refrigerate or freeze, or the freezer can't freeze your food, it's going to go off and you're going to lose a large amount of food. So electricity is a very important part of the game, and so is water. House alarms, your character will sometimes trigger house alarms. Keep them sometimes. It's unrealistic to not have house alarms. Locked house frequency, I would go very often. Even though it is zombie apocalypse, people will still have their houses on lockdown, and if there's zombie apocalypse, the thing you're not going to go do is unlock all your doors and open all your windows, is it? Food spoilage, normal. Refrigeration effectiveness, this is how long food will last if it's refrigerated, because it still can go off if it's refrigerated, but it'll be a far longer lifespan. Loot respawn, I keep this on 0. I do not like loot respawn, as it makes it ruins a part of the game which I love, which is the exploration. So I'd keep this on none. I wouldn't recommend changing that. Month since the apocalypse, keep that on 0, especially for your first time. Having it on 0 means you've woken up basically within the start of the apocalypse. But if you wanted to, you could do 12 months in advance. But just keep it on 0. Darkness during the night. Normally in my playthroughs I have it on pitch black, because it's much more realistic and it's a lot more scary when you're getting chased down by zombies and you can't see barely anything in front of you. For this, however, do normal, and when you feel comfortable, change it to pitch black or dark or whatever you'd like to. Fire spread on, generator working exteriors on, initial gas amount, just have that on normal. Next we're going on to nature. Now there is a temperature system in the game. If you wear very, very warm clothes in a hot summer's day, you'll get very sweaty and you'll need to hydrate yourself more. But then again, on the flip side, if you're wearing a t-shirt and shorts and it's minus 10 degrees outside because it's December, you're going to freeze and probably die with hypothermia. So you want to balance that out. So to keep it balanced, like it would be in the real world, keep it on normal. Rain also on normal too. Obviously, if you have it raining all the time, you're going to get tons of water. However, you're going to probably get colds, especially because rain makes you wet and damp, and you can catch colds unless you have the outdoorsman traits. Erosion speed, keep this on normal. Erosion is how quickly wildlife or the vines and stuff will creep back into the world, because the world isn't going to be fully maintained 10 years down the line, is it? It's going to be very, very overgrown. Farming speed, it's how quick stuff grows, just keep that on normal. And I would recommend keeping all of this just on normal, and snow on the ground, because why wouldn't you want snow on the ground when it starts to snow? Now the Sadistic AI Director, the helicopter. You'll get, if you get to know the community, which I'm sure you will be recommended tons of videos on YouTube about the helicopter event, and I've even made one myself. The helicopter event is when, normally around the 6th to 8th day, in between that time, a helicopter will fly around the map, well, generally fly around you. You basically get tracked by a massive flying, you get trapped by a massive flying helicopter, and helicopters make a lot of noise and attracts a lot of zombies, so you have to be very, very careful, and you basically become a honing target for the zombies. So very dangerous, but I would recommend to keep it on just for once, because it is fun. Meta events. These are events which sadly have no massive impact apart from the fact that they sound scary, or there's a gunshot. So for example, you may be walking down a street and you'll hear a scream, and it sounds like it's 50 meters away. If you run up the direction where you heard the scream, there was no actual physical thing happening on the map. It's just like an audio cue. But what it means is that the zombies will be attracted to that, or if there's a gunshot, there isn't actually someone shooting a gun, it's just an audio cue, and zombies will be attracted to that. It's just so it can make the world feel a bit more realistic, and people kind of move around, and the zombies kind of migrate around a bit more. Sleeping events, yeah, never turn those on. Those things scare the shit out of me, so I keep that on none. Meta. Now, generator spawns, you want to keep that on sometimes. You don't want them spawning all the time. Generator fuel consumption basically means that it will consume the fuel that you put in the generator at a more or less rate. Keep that on 1. Randomized house chance. This is when in game you might come across a house which is either burnt down, or it's like a dead survivors, or there's like sometimes you get people who have drank bleach or something, and there's a bleach bottle next to them, and there's normally loot around in the houses which will help you. Keep this on rare, because you don't want to make it really easy. You just want to keep it rare because it's more of a surprise when you come across it. Same for randomized vehicle stories chance, and also randomized zone story chance. Just keep those on rare. Annotated map chance. So sometimes when you're playing in game, you will stumble across an annotated map, and if you read the annotated map, it will come up with a interface where you can read it. And normally there's notes and markings, and it will tell you if there's like a house with loot in it nearby, or there's a massive horde somewhere. Keep those on sometimes, because it's always nice to, come across a map and follow the treasure map, even though sometimes they do give nothing. Decaying cores health impact. Now this is something that a lot of people have actually died to before. When clearing up big hordes or big buildings, you're going to want to be careful not to stay in a room full of 400 dead corpses, because obviously that will affect your health. So you want to keep that on normal. I have that on normal just because I don't want to get, I want it to be a thing, but I don't want it to be overpowering in the fact I can't go in a room at all with them. So blood level, how much blood is sprayed on the floor or walls. Normally, because I like a lot of blood and gore, I turn it on to ultra gore, but you can have it on whatever, but I'm going to put it on here because, I feel like doing that. Loot rarity. As you probably guess, it's about how rare the loot is. A lot of these names are self-explanatory. You get fresh food, which is just like meat, steak, sausages, bacon. Canned foods, you got canned potatoes, canned chilies. Melee weapons, which is stuff like crowbars, bats, axes, for example. Ranged weapons, those are the guns of the game. Ammo for the guns. Medical supplies, there is an entire medical system to the game. Now survival essentials is stuff like saws, nails, hammers, etc. Mechanics, this is about all the mechanics side of the game, where you can pull apart a card and put it back together. Now this is how likely they are to spawn. Literature, this is how likely literature is meant to spawn. And other is just everything else that hasn't come under here, and you'll figure that out soon. Onto character. Now XP multipliers. So in game you have skills. As you normally do the skill, it levels up, and it levels up at a base rate. Now what you can do here is you can up the rate at which you get XP by multiplying it. Keep this on 1 though, because it's balanced, even though it does take, it's a bit of a grind later on, but it's realistic in the fact of if you've never touched, you know, metalworking before, you're not going to be able to build a metal shelf or something out of nothing, are you? Stats decrease. This is stuff like thirst and hunger, how quickly they decrease and how quickly you'll need to replenish them. Keep this on normal. It's quite balanced the way it is. You normally have to eat in the morning, generally a snack at midday, and also then meal at the end of the day. It's quite balanced in the fact. Endurance regeneration. So in game you have like your endurance and stamina, even though it's not really a thing you can measure apart from the moodlets. This is how quickly it regenerates. Keep this on normal. Nutrition. Nutrition is about does the food you eat affect your weight? Because in game you have a weight, and if you're overweight you have nerfs, and if you're very underweight you have nerfs too. So you're going to want to keep a balanced diet. Starter kit. I would turn this off because it's a bit of a free start. No real point doing it because you like lose the initial kind of start of the game. So I'll just turn that off. Free trait points, keep that on 0. No point turning that up really. You can make a decent character without having any extra free trait points. Next you have playbook construction. So in game you can build things. You can build like walls. You can build log walls. You know, you can build that. This decides how strong those walls are that you make, and how much a zombie will have to hit the wall for it to break. Keep this on normal. Injury severity. Keep that on normal too. It's frustrating when you burn yourself and you're inside for like 2 in-game weeks, but it's realistic and it makes you think about what you're doing beforehand, and is what you're doing worth it? You know. Bone fracture. Keep it on. Makes it more realistic. You know, if you're falling from the 3rd floor, you're gonna break a few bones and probably die. Clothing degradation. Keep that on normal. That's just how quickly your clothes, you know, start to break. You can fix your clothes, however those do cost resources. Rear vulnerability. Now this is about how vulnerable you are from attacks from behind. So now keep this on high because, you know, in real life you are weakest where you can't see. In my opinion, like, you know, in my opinion. So if a zombie comes up behind you, you're not going to be able to shake him off really. So I keep that on high. Now, weapon multi-hit. This depends on what playthrough you're going through. At your start, I would probably do weapon multi-hit off because it's a very, very PvP focused trait, like option. For my big series where I do I clear out a massive mall or I clear out Cheston, I generally have it on because I'm dealing with hordes of like 60, 70 to about 250 zombies. You know, I need to be able to hit multiple, otherwise I'm going to be there for literally ever. So I keep this off for the moment. Melee movement disruption. Keep this on, so it means that you're impeded while melee attacking, so you can't keep like sprinting or whatever, and you can't just keep swinging. All clothing unlocked. Just turn this off, there's no point. You'll find the clothes that you need. In-game map. So I never use the minimap. I don't like having a minimap. I think it's a bit of a eyesore. I don't know. Just my opinion. You can turn this on or not. This is completely your choice. I don't though, because I don't like having it down in this bottom corner. It takes up a large chunk of the screen. Allow world map. Yes, that's very important, so you know generally where you're going. Or no start. I would say no for the start. I would say no to that. Vehicles. You're going to want to turn vehicles on. They're very important. They're vital for, you know, mid-game to late game. You're going to want to be able to use these, definitely. Easy use. Now, you're going to want to keep this like this. You don't want to turn this on, otherwise it just becomes a bit, you know, it makes cars and it makes looking for, you know, keys useless. It's not realistic to be able to have every single key in your pocket for every single car. Recent survivor vehicles, keep that on low. Just the chance of having a survivor vehicle, just keep that on low. You don't want those, really. Or if you do, you want them at minimum. Zombie attraction multiplier, that is about how many or how much the zombies around in the area are attracted to the car. Because obviously the car makes noise and zombies are attracted to noise. Car spawn rate, keep that on low. no point having it. No point having thousands on a map. You know, you only need really 5 max, maybe late game. Chances of having gas, keep that on low. You know, not every car is going to have a full tank of gas every single time. And, you know, think in world, people would scavenge for gas, like you are, like you would be. And, you know, not every car is going to be completely, you know, free of that. Initial gas. Now, initial gas is about how much gas cars would have if they have gas in their car. So if you find a car that has gas in it, the initial gas, this thing here, will govern how full the tank is. Keep it on low. You're not going to want tons of it at the start, so just keep that on low. So basically, if you find a car, it's going to have a low chance of gas in it, but if there is gas in it, it's going to have a low amount of gas in it. Gas consumption, keep that on 1, just balanced. Locked frequency, keep that on rare. Obviously cars are going to be locked. General condition, keep it on low because you're going to want to have the cars on a low condition because, you know, after a while, the cars do deteriorate in quality and condition. Car wreck congestion, you're going to want to have these on. Much more, they just makes the world feel more alive, you know. People are going to crash. It's like that classic scene in The Walking Dead where, you know, on the motorway or the highway out, there's tons of cars and it's all there's like a, you know, a wreck and congestion, because that's what would happen in real life. Car alarm frequencies, have that on extremely rare. This is balanced in the fact that you're going to be probably looking through quite a lot of cars, and if every other car that you open blaring an alarm at you, you're going to attract so many zombies, and it's going to be, you know, you're not going to be able to get a car in a reasonable way. Player damage from crash, yep, turn that on. It basically means that you can't go 150 down a motorway or a highway, smack into another car and be fine. You know, if you hit into a car over, you know, 60 miles per hour, you're most likely going to die. So, you know, just be careful. Can't damage on impact, keep that on normal. Just balanced out. Siren shut off hours, just keep that on, like 0. And damage to player from being hit by a car. Now, you won't necessarily be hit by a car unless you're playing multiplayer or with friends or in like a co-op. So just keep that on none for the moment. There's not really necessary. Now we're getting into the zombie lore. Right. So this is the base game. Zombies. I'd like to change a little bit of this. So to change it, you click proper zombies. You click turn them off. So we're going to change the speed of the zombies down to shamblers. And now this means that, you know, that they're fast, but they're not as fast, and it will give you more time to react, it will give you more time to run away, just so it's more beginner friendly. As you get more used to the game, definitely turn them on to fast shamblers, because anyway, over time anyway they will deteriorate to shamblers. Strength, keep that on normal. You don't want them being, you know, superhero, or you don't want them being literally just, you know, a pushover. Toughness, keep that on normal too. Now here's something I normally change. Transmission. So normally by default it's blood and saliva. Now that means that you can die from like a scratch, laceration and a bite. In my head canon for this game, I feel like it should only be saliva only. Now I'll give my reasoning for this. In a lot of my favourite zombie movies and stuff and the books I've read, it's saliva only, and it makes much more sense. And in real life, it's so unrealistic. If you got scratched, even if it was like a nail going across, you're done for. So I think it's saliva only, because the saliva only is definitely like a, oh shit, I've been bitten, I'm dead. I thought that's far more realistic, so I keep that on that. However, you can change it to blood and saliva, but I'm going to keep it on this, and I always keep it on this. But that is entirely your choice. Infection mortality, that is how long it takes you after you've been scratched, bitten or lacerated to turn into a zombie, so 2 to 3 days. Reanimation time, that's how quickly you reanimate back into a zombie after you're dead. Cognition, so this is basically how well do the zombies get to your position after you've made a noise, or how well do they follow you. Keep it on basic navigation, because I don't think they should be able to necessarily use doors, unless you're role-playing in the sense that they still have some brain function, but that's your choice. I keep it on basic navigation. Crawl under a vehicle, I think that's often. I think that's just something that zombies would do. If there's a vehicle, you know, they're going to try crawl under it to get to you. Memory, keep that on normal. It's just how quickly they forget how much they remember of you after seeing you. Now, decomposition. This is about how they decompose. So obviously they're corpses, they're going to decompose. They never like stop moving completely. Obviously, then they don't. You know, there's not a point where every zombie just dies because of deterioration. But after a while, they were slow and they will weaken, which is realistic because they would in a zombie apocalypse. It's like people say in a real zombie apocalypse, you know, they wouldn't last more than, you know, 5 months. Well, they wouldn't last more than like 10 weeks or whatever because, you know, corpses just decompose and they would just not be able to move. Sight, keep that on normal. Hearing, keep that on normal. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Environmental attacks. This is basically where zombies randomly attack structures that you have made. I keep this on no because I would feel like they have no reason to just randomly start, you know, beating the shit out of something you've made. Damage construction, keep that on. Realistic, you know, if you've got 5 zombies at a door, they're gonna break it down. So, you know, keep that on. Day and night cycle. This is basically when are the zombies active. I keep it on both because I feel like they would be in real life. However, if you're playing like, you know, like if you want to do like The Last of Us survival or something, you know, you can make it so it's just, you know, they're just active during the day and they're not at night. Keep it on both though. Zombie house alarm triggering. Now I normally turn this off because at the start of the game, zombies will be breaking in and out of every single building and everything. I think keeping it off is far better for experience. But you know, this is entirely your choice. However, expect to just hear house alarms for literally ever at the start. Drag down. This is, you know, if zombies. So this is basically, this is tied to your strength. The higher the strength that your character has, the less likely they're going to get dragged down by a group of zombies. Keep it on though, because it's realistic, you would get dragged down by a group of zombies. And fence lunge. A trick I like to use is called the fence trick. It's where you stand on one side of the fence and they're on the other side. They jump over the fence and they fall to the ground, and as they're on the ground, you then kill them. However, to balance that out, because it is quite overpowered, I have fence lunge on, which basically means if you're not there and quick to attack them, they can like quickly lunge at your feet as you're nearby and knock you on your ass. This can be dangerous because if you fall back and you're stunned, you might not get up enough. You might not get up quickly enough, and you might get eaten. Okay, now on to advanced zombie options. Population multiplier. This is the multiplier at which the zombie population is at. Keep this on 1, especially for your first time. You can turn this on. You can turn this up, but I would recommend doing it after you're comfortable with the game. Now you've got peak start multiplier and peak population multiplier and peak population day. Now this means that on day 28, this is when the population of zombies reaches a peak, and it will be at 1.5 times the amount of zombies that you have generally on the map at that time. You can kind of consider day 28 as the hardest day, as in there's as many zombies. So it starts off easier and it gets harder as the days continue. Until 28, and then generally that's the peak day, and then you can start knocking them out. So now, this is the next part, which a lot of people, you know, have different opinions on. Personally, I think respawn should be turned off in this game. So what I do is I turn this off to 0, 0, and 0. I do not think in a zombie game, which is realistic like this, that zombies should just respawn. Even if, you know, you could secure an entire, like, house, but just not be in it. But you come back to it, and a zombie has just spawned in it. I feel that's completely unrealistic, so I turn it all off. And it's much more satisfying to clear an area and know that that area is safe. Redistribution hours, that is, you know, how often they redistribute themselves. Follow sound distance, that's, you know, so follow sound distance, that's how far a zombie will travel after a sound. So 100 is that it will travel 100, whatever it's measured in to get to you. Rally group size, that's how big generally the group size will rally. And this is how far they'll travel when idle. Now rally group separation. Now this is the amount of space between each group. So I keep this on about 15. And rally group radius. Then this is generally how spread out the zombies will be around the group leader, and the group leader is like the zombie which started it. But that's like the game side. You don't need to, there's not like an actual leader in a sense, but you know there isn't one walking around with like a hat on saying leader. But yeah,